And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, I want to talk about something I'm sure a lot of you guys have already been been hearing people talk about, and that's Magic is releasing their 30th anniversary set. Now, if you're not familiar with why that's kind of important, anything like that, well, Magic the Gathering is definitely way more a player's game than it is a collector's game, where I think it's kind of the opposite with Pokemon. Pokemon is definitely way more skewed towards the collector base, and the player base is maybe second. But, one of the big announcements that came with the Pokemon, or excuse me, the Magic the Gathering 30th anniversary set is they're reprinting like the original alpha beta cards. So Power 9, stuff like that, like the real big chase cards of Magic the Gathering. And that product's going to be $999. So let's just call it $1,000. That product's going to have 4 packs in it. Each pack is going to cost $250. So the question is pretty simple. If Magic could do it, could Pokemon do it? So that will be what I will tackle at the beginning of this conversation. And then what I'm going to tackle at the end of the conversation is I'm definitely going to talk about like Collectacon Denver and all the plans I have for that. But the first big thing is when I think Magic the Gathering, this 30th anniversary set, is going to, in a way, kind of be like a canary in the coal mine type situation for Pokemon, because Pokemon's going to be able to look at how the reaction is with the market with Magic the Gathering. This is the thing. Because, like I said, Magic the Gathering is such a strong player base, they usually don't cater to the collector base that much. So when they do make this premium sort of product, you're already starting to see, like within the Magic community, there's a lot of people that are actually very upset about this. They feel like it's a big disrespect, that it's a money grab from Wizard of the Coast, and more or less they're pushing out proxy cards. But now this is the thing. There's like a historical aspect to Magic the Gathering, and I'm going to do this as basic as I can because this is a Pokemon channel, not much like anything more than that. So I'm going to give you real basic rundown of like Magic the Gathering history. Listen, this is going to be very like basic because that's all I really know Magic the Gathering. I know it from a very, basic mindset. I'm not like super deep in the Magic, not like I am Pokemon, but Magic the Gathering, goes back to 93, where Pokemon goes back to 99. And in 93, Magic released 3 sets. Obviously, the first set was their alpha. That's a super expensive one in Magic. Then beta. And then at the end of the year in 93, they released the collector's edition. All the collector's edition was a reprint of that alpha and beta set. It was like over 300 cards. It was different. It's very similar to the same way you would think about base set 2 for Pokemon. Pokemon has, base set Jungle Fossil. Then the 4th set is base set 2. It's a set that we more or less usually skip over when we talk about Pokemon, when we talk about Wizard of the Coast. It's kind of like what we don't talk about in Pokemon. But base set 2 was just a reprint of those other sets, maybe a little different foil pattern. You have the base set 2 symbol on the back. And then the same thing with Magic. You had their collector's edition, different backs. The cards, weren't exactly the same. And, back in 93, those collector edition sets for an entire sealed set of all the cards, $50. Fast forward to today, 2022, that same collector's edition for Magic the Gathering is in, it's greater than $10,000. So we're talking huge dollar amounts more, very similar to the way we look at Pokemon base set 2, nowadays is, thousands of dollars a booster box. Now, there is a little bit of a difference between the Magic of the Gathering collector's edition because when it came out, there was actually decent demand. Like Magic players kind of have an understanding of what the print runs were for that. It was supposed to be like 10,000 for English, or excuse me, 10,000 for North America. And then there was going to be an international edition of like 5,000 more. And then for whatever happened in the printed in the English or the North American version, that print run was a little less. So, people float the number around like between 13 and 14,000 of those collector editions were ever printed. Now, this is the thing. By knowing the print runs and stuff, sort of creates like, that threshold of rarity, or at least artificial rarity, in the sense that it was underprinted maybe for demand. Now, fast forward today, Magic is doing in this same 30th anniversary product. It's probably not going to be printed like crazy, because Magic has already come out there and said, we're going to keep the print runs relatively small. Now, what relatively small can be for $1,000 product? Your guess is as good as mine. It seems like it's going to be straight through Magic. Like, you're going to have to go to the 30th anniversary website or whatever to buy it. There are going to be a couple trickling out to like local LGSs, but like super minimal numbers. Numbers I've heard people say is like one per store. Like, that's nothing. We think about, the Charizard UPC being relatively rare or low print numbers, or the Celebrations UPC being low numbers, but that's nothing compared to what this is going to be. And now this is the big thing. When you have a product like that, $1,000, the market's gonna absorb it. Now, the question is that price gonna retrace? Because it's $1,000 product. And like I said, the arguments that these Magic players have is that they're proxy cards and all this stuff. I'm just gonna say right now that the demand for a product like that, like a super high-end premium collection box from Magic, made towards a collector base and not just the player base, it's gonna go freaking crazy. And that's the thing. It's gonna make people so angry. Like, people in the Magic community are going to be so upset, because that product will probably never crash. And in my opinion, it will never crash. And if you don't think there's a lot of money in Magic, like, you got another thing coming. Like, you got people buying, the Rudy 69th anniversary special collection box, like, for a crazy amount of monies, or, Rudy putting out his promo card for crazy amount of money, or it just in TCGs in general, and Pokemon, for PSA 10s of the most modern alternative arts, whether it's the Moonbryon or the Giratina V in a 10, or Aerodactyl 10, like, from Lost Origins. These cards, Giratina V in a 10, so a bunch of sales for greater than $1,000. The market has a lot of money. Now, this is the thing. When it comes to Pokemon, a lot of people look at like the UPCs, and yeah, the price is relatively high. It's $119.99, but in the grand scheme of everything, it's not like super, super expensive. Don't get me wrong, it's probably a lot of money for a large majority of the hobby. Most people probably don't spend $100 on Pokemon, but for me, people watching this channel, it's probably very easy for you to spend 119. Now, this is the thing. If I think that the demand for that Magic product is going to be absolutely insane, that website is probably going to crash multiple times. People who want the product are probably not going to get the product. And a product like that Magic 30th anniversary product, there's going to be a lot of the scalpers that are going to enter Magic just to make the flip play on that. That's what it's going to boil down to. There's going to be super easy money, the same way as Charizard UPC is super easy money, the same way Celebrations UPC was super easy money for Pokemon. People are going to flood into Magic, and that's the thing. When you look at the price of those cards, at the price of that product, and then in comparison to like alpha or beta cards or collector edition cards, cards that are, obviously for alpha, you're not going to find too many cards for that price range, but you can pick up, a lot of these cards for $1,000. Like, lots subjective, but like, you could actually get the real thing for $1,000, opposed to paying $1,000 for a lottery chance of pulling one in a pack. Like, but that's the thing. This market is so collector based now that they just don't care. You could slap any price tag on anything, and people are going to be willing to pay for it. It's the same way as like, Charizard. Charizard and Pokemon's a fantastic example. At least base set Charizard. Think of how many different print variations of base set Charizard there is. Yeah, first edition, Shadowless, Unlimited. Then you have base set 2, you had a reprint. Then in Legendary Collection, you have the reverse hollow firework pattern Charizard. You have the hollow. Then you have the non-hollow from the lava theme deck from Legendary Collection. Then you fast forward to Stormfront, and you have the alternative art secret rare Charizard. Then you fast forward to Evolutions, and you got that Charizard again in hollow or reverse hollow. And then fast forward again to Celebrations, you get that card released again in Celebration. How many of those freaking cards are out there? Every time that freaking card sells for crazy high prices, even Celebrations right at release, that was a greater than $100 card. It's the market is so forgiving for like all these decisions that these companies are going to make, just super forgiving. They could just absorb product and $1,000 price tags. This is the question. Is $1,000 price tags in Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, is it really high? The easy answer is to say yes, it is high dollar amounts because the majority of the hobby doesn't have just thousands of dollars to throw around, but the market does. The same way as we see special delivery Charizards, right? For the first ones graded intense. Again, special delivery Charizard is a card we were gonna beat down for as long as we can. That was a free promo card from Pokemon Center. There will be hundreds of thousands of those cards. You think that the Charizard V promo card from Champion's Path from the ETB, that Charizard, the most graded Charizard in the history of this hobby, which has greater than 30,000 of those cards graded. Do you think that that special livery Charizard won't have a very close population? But still, it didn't stop that card for selling for $800+ in the 10 because the market just has all this money. And I think the market just has the ability to, pay these crazy prices and, like a Black Lotus from this 30th anniversary set. Is it a reprint? Is it a proxy? Is it not? Like we're not going to get into Magic too much, but you have like the standard, but then you have your commander stuff and all that stuff. But none of these cards are going to be even playable for a game that's extremely playable, opposed to Pokemon, which I said is more collector based. But it's going to be interesting to see where all this plays out. But now this brings up the question: what happens when Pokemon does this and makes this crazy premium collection box that's, let's just say the same dollar amount, $999. It's going to change the way we know this hobby. I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. Like I said, I think this Magic 30th anniversary set is the canary in the coal mines for Pokemon. They're just watching to see what happens. And, we're already seeing what the market does with things that are relatively underpriced. Charizard UPCs, instant right at release, greater than MSRP. Same thing with Celebrations, greater than MSRP. Really good products will always sell for that premium, and it's amazing what the market is able to absorb. And this is one of those conversations I've had so many freaking times that don't make any sense because every set that comes out with Pokemon, as we've seen the photos and the videos of these factories where they just have pallets and stacks of product, it looks like the warehouse from the freaking end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, like where they put the ark. Oh, it's with our best people, and it's just in a giant warehouse. Like that reminds me of that scene from the Pokemon, printing facility, which is just stacks and stacks of products. But that's the thing. Every single item on those pallets, every single box, every ETB, every booster box, every check lane blister, every individual pack, every 3-pack blister, even theme decks, all that stuff eventually has to get absorbed by the market. And all that is new product. That is not existent product. That means whatever dollar amount is associated with an entire print run of a new set, that entire dollar amount associated with that print run needs to be absorbed by the community, needs to be absorbed by the Pokemon collector base. Like when you start to sit down and you think about this number, that's one of those very scary things is you always say like, this has to eventually come to a head. This eventually has to like stop. Like you can't just have an unlimited supply of money like trickling in. well, it's not really trickling in, it's flooding in, right? Meaning anything that's available, people are buying up. This is the thing. We said that early 2020, we said that late 2020, we said early 2021, mid 2021. How the market is still able to absorb some of this stuff the way it is continuing to absorb it is crazy. And it's the same way as all these TCGs. But I'll tell you what, if and when Pokemon does finally make a really true high-end premium collection, very similar to the Magic 30th anniversary, you got the 4 packs. If Pokemon decides to do that, the thing is how strong the Pokemon market is right now. They'll be able to absorb that stuff instantly. They will absorb that as quick as you could possibly absorb stuff. Markets will go crazy. People will be super upset. Now, this is the thing. When you have like, you know, ultra premium collections, the market isn't like super upset about the dictated price for MSRP, the 119. So Pokemon's saving grace with a product like UPC is all the fans will say, well, Pokemon's big problem there isn't the price. Their big problem is they didn't print enough. And because they didn't print enough, the secondary market was able to eat up all this product, eat up all the supply. And then it was because of that low print run that prices spiked. So they don't really blame Pokemon right now, with the exception of their inability to really print enough to meet the demand. But now when Pokemon does this and they do that big leap, right? That big jump where they do go to this super high end product, $1,000+ there's going to be a part of this community is going to lose their freaking minds because of the price point. Very similar to what we're seeing happen with the Magic community. All those people that are super upset, it's going to be exactly the same scenario happening in Pokemon. But yeah, hold on. Sorry guys. I have like a frog in my throat all day, trying to get it out. But yeah, very interesting. I'd be very curious to see how all this plays out. Oh man, I'm sneezing. I'm coughing. What's going on? Let's see. So yeah. So the next thing I want to do now is, so I guess we kind of talked about that. We talked about that Magic. We talked about that premium product. We talked about $1,000 price tags. What would happen if Pokemon? So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to, shoot some questions in the chat. We'll talk about it after. But right now, the next thing I want to talk about is Denver Collectacon. It's for me now, it's like 2 days away here, or it's Tuesday. So I'm going to be flying in on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, flying out on Monday. There's going to be a lot going on in Denver Collectacon. One of the things I'm going to try to do, like really hard, is film a lot of content. One of the things I mentioned in a previous video, I said, if any of you guys want, I will do a live stream while I'm there, assuming that the service is good enough to walk around doing a live stream and like it's not going to be super laggy or choppy, and I'll just do the live stream straight from my phone. If you guys don't want to see that, like, let me know, but I'm probably going to do that. It probably won't be like a great video to listen to on your car ride or when you're at work, because you're probably just going to have to watch it. I probably won't be able to do any kind of like talking or interviews. But if you just want to see like what it's like real time, I'll do that video. But I'm also going to do those, more edited type videos, and I'm going to do a lot of shorts. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm going there with the mindset of just filming content, really taking advantage of, this whole situation, because this is that thing. We always talk, what is it going to take for Pokemon to continue to move forwards? What does it take to keep the collector base? And one of the things that really is required is you need this type of community. You need these people coming together, getting together, going to events, experiencing this hobby together. And that's the thing. This hobby in relative is extremely young. Yes, this hobby came out 25 years ago. We all know we had our celebrations reprint in the 25th anniversary and all this. Stop. time out for 1 second. When this game came out, this was a children's game. Most of us that were around in 99 were children. We grew out of Pokemon. We grew out of Pokemon. We went to high school and college, and then, people rediscovered it in different timelines between, their fourth or fifth grade years to now, right? And then it took a while. So when I say this is a young hobby, we're really young with the higher end of collectors moving back in and rediscovering Pokemon. And we might be at the beginning of that. It's not to say we're at the end of it. And one of the examples I'm using is Collectacon. It appears that Collectacons are becoming bigger and bigger, and more people are getting excited about it. Same thing as like, the signing events and stuff like that. Signing events being relatively more niche, where now you have, a Rita or a Sugamori, or maybe not. Sugamori hasn't signed in a decade, but Koti Psycho or the guys like that, like they come, they do signings. The lines, the demands are, exponential to whatever they used to be in the past. And I think we might start to see that happen more and more on a personal basis. And this is the weird thing is we're moving in life in general, we're moving further and further away from like the more personal aspect. We're doing more of like, social media and all this stuff. But I think social media just acts as a catalyst, as a way for everybody to like get together, become friends. A lot of the names in the chats, like some of my mods, people that I know in this hobby just from this channel, this is all like through social media, through people chatting in the chats or Discord, stuff like this. That group of collectors is growing. And when you talk to a large majority of the people in this hobby, they're only been rediscovering Pokemon for a few years. So it's not like you have this huge long timeline where all these relationships were created. It's extremely condensed down to a relatively small amount of time. So now with that said, events like Collectacons, where now people that have maybe had hours worth of communications in some senses. I know that there's some people that have been on my channel before. We've sat down and we've communicated for hours on this channel, whether it was podcast or through Discords or whatever. But I haven't even met that person in person, but I finally will. So like, this is just a stepping stone. So even though we as a, like as the world is moving further and further and more to that social media, like this hobby, for whatever reason, is condensing itself down and becoming more and more personalized. And the more and more personalizations, which I guess kind of leads up to that catalyst of meeting in person, I think is fantastic. I think it shows why this hobby is going to be super strong in the future. And this is the thing too, is the names I'm seeing, the people chatted, the names are, while they're the same for the most part, I still see new names coming in and out, which new names means new people, means new, like, energized people. This is going to be fantastic, guys. So yeah. I want to go and read some of the chat, but for whatever reason, my voice is just so froggy tonight. Can't get over it. So, I think I'm a little congested too. So with that said, probably just going to wrap up this chat. I wish I could keep it going for a little bit longer, but I'm struggling. I hit the struggle bus somehow. Sorry about that, guys. But hey, if you do enjoy this conversation, if you do enjoy this channel, just do me two favors. One, smash that like button. Number two, hit that subscribe button. But if you guys don't want it, that's okay too. Just keep watching. Other than that, guys, I'll catch you on the next video.